Ethan stepped off the small spacecraft and onto the soft, glowing ground of Zyphora. The air was thick but breathable, scented with strange flowers that shimmered under the alien sun. His heart raced, not from fear but from excitement. Humans had explored many planets before, but this one was different. Zyphora's forests glowed with colors he had never seen, and the creatures that roamed seemed to hum in a language of their own. He adjusted the strap of his pack and took a careful step forward. Beside him, his team, Mira, the biologist, and Jalen, the communications expert, marveled at the alien marketplace that stretched before them. Stalls of crystal-like fruits, floating containers of liquid that glowed, and strange fabrics that rippled as if alive filled the wide path. The locals, Zyphorans, moved gracefully on multiple legs, their tall bodies covered in smooth scales that reflected the sunlight in tiny rainbows. "This place is incredible," Mira whispered, her eyes wide. Ethan nodded. "Keep your senses open. Remember, we're guests here. Our mission is to observe and learn, not interfere." As they moved through the crowd, Ethan noticed a small creature dart across the path. It had 6 legs, a transparent shell, and seemed curious rather than dangerous. He stepped to the side, but the creature was faster. In an instant it bumped into Ethan and he stumbled. His hand scraped against the jagged edge of a crystal display, leaving a shallow but bleeding wound across his forearm. "Are you okay?" Jalen asked, his voice tense. Ethan looked at his arm. The blood was bright red against his skin, a small cut but enough to draw attention. "I'm fine," he said with a calm smile. "Just a scratch. Nothing serious." He quickly pressed a clean cloth from his pack to the wound, showing no sign of pain. The Zyphorans nearby paused. They whispered in a language Ethan could not understand, but the tone was cautious, almost reverent. Their long, delicate fingers twitched and their multicolored eyes focused on him. One of the larger Zyphorans, standing near a stall of glowing fruit, seemed especially concerned. Ethan noticed it but stayed calm. Humans were known for their resilience even to minor injuries, and he would show that here too. "It's okay," he said gently, giving a small bow. "I can handle this." The team continued through the marketplace, but Ethan could feel the eyes on him. Everywhere he went, creatures glanced, whispered, and watched his wound. Some stepped back, creating a wide circle around him. Jalen noticed it too. "Ethan," he said quietly, "why are they acting like that?" Ethan glanced at him, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe they've never seen someone get hurt and keep going. Humans heal differently. We're strong." Mira shook her head, still looking around nervously. "It's more than that. Look at how they're looking at you. It's respect, I think." Before Ethan could respond, a tall Zyphoran with deep blue scales and long, curved limbs approached them. The creature wore a simple robe, but its posture was regal. "Follow me," it said in broken but understandable Galactic common. Ethan nodded. "Of course." He gestured for Mira and Jalen to follow. They were led through winding paths, past crystal fountains that sang soft melodies as water flowed, and under arches that shimmered with light. Everywhere they went, Zyphorans bowed their heads slightly. The whispers never stopped, and Ethan felt the curious tension grow. Finally, they reached the gates of a massive palace. Its walls were smooth like carved gemstones, and light seemed to pour from within as if the palace itself were alive. The guard at the entrance, a taller Zyphoran with silver scales, stopped and looked at Ethan's arm. His 3 eyes widened slightly. Without a word, he lowered his spear to the ground. Ethan's jaw tightened in surprise. He had expected caution, maybe curiosity, but not this reaction. He raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. "I mean no harm," he said softly. The guard nodded, still watching Ethan closely. He stepped aside and the team entered. Inside, the palace was even more beautiful. The floors glowed softly under their feet and the walls seemed to ripple like liquid crystal. Strange creatures floated in the air, their translucent wings catching the light. And at the center of it all was a grand staircase leading up to a throne bathed in warm golden light. Ethan took a deep breath. This was it, the moment he had been hoping for and dreading at the same time. He had heard stories of Zyphoran's alien rulers. The alien queen was said to be wise, but also cautious. Few humans had ever met her, and those who did rarely left without leaving a strong impression. As they approached the throne, the whispers grew louder. The palace guards, all armed and ready, were tense. But as the alien queen herself appeared, the air changed. Her presence was commanding, yet not threatening. She had long, flowing scales that glimmered like liquid silver, and eyes that shone with intelligence and curiosity. Ethan stepped forward, keeping his arm visible and his expression calm. "Greetings," he said. "I am Ethan from Earth. We come in peace." The Queen's gaze shifted to his wound. She studied it carefully, and Ethan could feel the weight of her attention. Around her, the guards stiffened. But then something remarkable happened. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons, their eyes wide. They whispered quickly among themselves, and Ethan realized they were afraid. But not of him. They were afraid of the resilience he represented. Ethan didn't move, didn't flinch. He simply stood there, showing the calm confidence that humans were known for. The Queen's eyes lingered on him, and then she spoke, her voice melodic and clear. "Your flesh is broken," she said, "and yet you stand. Humans, you endure in ways we do not understand." Ethan bowed slightly. "Yes, ma'am. Humans heal, and we face challenges without giving up. It is our nature." The Queen tilted her head, a gesture that seemed almost thoughtful. The guards around her glanced nervously at each other but did not raise their spears. For the first time, Ethan felt a mixture of awe and hope. These creatures, so powerful and alien, were showing him respect, not because of his strength but because of his resilience. Mira and Jalen followed his lead, bowing carefully. Mira whispered, "I've never seen anything like this." Ethan smiled faintly. "Neither have I, but this is why we're here, to learn, and maybe to show that humans are something worth knowing." The Queen stepped closer, her eyes still on his arm. "Show me more," she said softly. "I wish to understand your ways, human. Teach me how you endure." Ethan's heart leapt. He had come to Zephora to observe, to learn, but now he realized they had come to teach as well. The idea of humans sharing their resilience with an entire alien species filled him with pride. Not arrogance, but a quiet, deep satisfaction. As the Queen guided them further into the palace, Ethan's wound throbbed faintly, a reminder of the journey that had brought him here. But it no longer felt like a weakness. It was a symbol of human courage, resilience, and the unexpected ways that even a small act, a small injury, could inspire awe across the stars. The palace corridors seemed endless, glowing softly with the colors of Zephora's bioluminescent walls. Ethan walked slowly, careful not to trip over the slightly uneven floor, while Mira and Jalen followed closely. Every step echoed, though the sound was soft, almost musical. It felt like walking through a living crystal. The palace was quiet but not empty. Small floating creatures glided through the air, their wings like thin sheets of glass. Some hovered near the walls, blinking with soft pulses of light. Ethan felt a strange sense of calm despite the tension surrounding them. The wound on his arm throbbed faintly, reminding him of the creature that had scratched him in the marketplace. He had bandaged it carefully, but the small scar would remain as a symbol of this journey. Ahead, the hallway widened, opening into a grand atrium. The floor was polished and reflective like a still lake. In the center, a fountain of liquid light flowed upward, defying gravity, forming shapes that twisted and shimmered. Zypherans moved around it, carrying delicate trays of glowing fruits and liquids. They paused as the human team passed, bowing slightly or inclining their heads in respect. Ethan noticed how even small gestures seemed meaningful here. One of the palace attendants, a tall Zypheran with silver-green scales, walked beside them. His name, Ethan learned, was Virel. Virel's voice was calm and deep as he spoke in broken Galactic common. "You are to meet the Queen soon." "Stay calm, she is curious," Ethan nodded. "Curious, yes. I've heard that humans are unusual here." He flexed his fingers carefully, testing his wound. "Apparently they respect endurance." Virel glanced at him, his eyes widening slightly. "You endure?" "The Queen will see this soon." They continued, moving past halls filled with strange flora that glowed in shifting patterns. Some plants pulsed gently, responding to movement, and others seemed to hum as if communicating with each other. Mira whispered, "I think they react to life energy. Everything here is alive in a way humans do not understand." Jalen nodded, adjusting his recording device. "Everything is recording. Everything is aware. We have to be careful and respectful." Ethan smiled faintly. "We'll be fine. Humans are good at adapting." At the end of the corridor, they reached a set of massive doors made of smooth crystal. Light passed through the doors in shimmering patterns. As they approached, Virel stopped and gestured. "These doors lead to the throne room. Step forward when you are ready." Ethan took a deep breath. He glanced at Mira and Jalen, giving a small nod. "Ready," he said. The doors opened silently, revealing the throne room. It was larger than anything Ethan had ever imagined. The ceiling was high, curved, and covered in glowing symbols that shifted slowly. The walls shimmered with soft waves of light, and a warm golden glow bathed the room from a central throne on a raised platform. The alien queen sat there, her long silver scales catching the light, her eyes sharp and intelligent. She seemed almost otherworldly, yet there was a calm authority in her posture. Around her, guards in metallic armor with long spears formed a semicircle. Ethan noticed that they all had their eyes on him, and for the first time he realized that his wound had made him different here. Not weak, but remarkable. The queen's gaze focused on his arm immediately. Her head tilted slightly as if trying to understand what she was seeing. The guards stiffened, their spears raised, ready to act. Ethan did not move, keeping his posture relaxed and non-threatening. "You carry injury," the queen said in a voice that echoed softly through the room, "and yet you walk without fear." Ethan bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. Humans heal and endure. It is in our nature to face challenges without surrender." The queen's eyes flickered with interest. She stepped forward slightly. Her movement was smooth, almost like flowing water. "You are brave," she said, "but bravery alone does not explain your endurance. Teach me, human. Show me why you do not falter from pain." Ethan hesitated only a moment before nodding. "It is simple. Humans care for one another. We help each other and we never give up. Strength is not just in the body, it is in the heart and mind as well." The guards around the throne shifted uneasily. Ethan could feel their tension. They had been ready to act, but now they seemed unsure. He realized that his calm demeanor, combined with his visible wound, had unsettled them. They were not afraid of him exactly. They were afraid of what he represented, the human spirit. The queen stepped closer, lowering her eyes to his arm. Ethan raised it slightly, showing the small bandage. "This is nothing," he said softly. "It will heal. But even if it did not, it would not stop me from moving forward." One of the guards whispered quickly to another. Ethan caught a word that sounded like resilience. Their eyes were wide, and they began lowering their spears slowly, one by one. By the time the queen spoke again, the guards were standing with weapons lowered, clearly impressed or perhaps even reverent. "You are strange creatures, humans," the queen said thoughtfully. "Your bodies heal. Your minds endure. Your hearts remain strong. This is rare," Ethan nodded. "We believe in helping one another. That is what makes us strong." The queen studied him silently for a long moment. Then she gestured to the area near the throne. "Sit, human. Teach me of your ways. Show me what makes your species endure." Ethan's heart leapt. This was beyond anything he had expected. Humans were here on an alien world being respected for their resilience. Not because they were warriors, but because they faced challenges with courage and compassion. Mira and Jalen followed him carefully. They sat slightly behind him, watching the queen and her court with awe. Mira whispered, "I never imagined humans would be valued for this, for being ourselves." Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes the simplest things are the most remarkable." The queen leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Tell me of your healing. Show me how humans recover from injury." Ethan unwrapped his bandage slowly, revealing the small cut on his arm. He had cleaned it carefully, but it was still visible, a vivid red against his pale skin. The queen's gaze softened slightly. "Your flesh is broken," she said, "and yet you stand without fear." "This is extraordinary," Ethan nodded. "It is not fear. It is patience, care, and trust. We care for ourselves and for others, and we do not surrender to pain. Even small injuries teach us to endure, to keep moving forward." The queen tilted her head. The guards around her exchanged glances, whispering softly. Ethan realized that they were sharing a lesson they had never learned before, that strength was not always in weapons or size, but in courage, patience, and resilience. One of the smaller attendants brought a tray of glowing liquids. The queen gestured for Ethan to try one. He hesitated, but then sipped it carefully. The liquid was sweet, warming his throat, and he felt a strange sense of calm. The queen smiled faintly. "This is Zyphora's way of healing. Perhaps humans and Zyphorans are not so different after all." Ethan bowed. "We can learn from each other, Your Majesty." The queen leaned back slightly, her eyes thoughtful. "Yes, humans endure, and you teach without words, simply by being yourselves. This is rare and valuable. Ethan felt pride, but it was quiet and humble. It was not about him alone, it was about humans as a whole. Their resilience, patience, and courage had made an impression on an alien species, one that could change the way they viewed all humans in the galaxy. "Your wound," the Queen said softly, "is not a weakness. It is a lesson." Ethan touched the bandage lightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. It reminds me of the journey that brought me here, and that even small challenges can become meaningful." The Queen's eyes glimmered. "Then let us begin. Show me more, human. Show me how your species lives, learns, and thrives." As Ethan prepared to share more of human life and culture, he felt a quiet excitement. This palace, this alien world, and this encounter were only the beginning. Humans had arrived not as conquerors, but as teachers of endurance, compassion, and courage. And for the first time, Ethan realized something profound. The greatest strength of humans was not in their technology or weapons, but in the simple, enduring spirit that allowed them to face challenges, heal, and continue forward. The Queen watched him carefully, clearly intrigued. The guards, once tense and ready for conflict, now regarded him with respect and awe, and Ethan, with his small wound and steady heart, smiled. This was only the first step toward a bond that could change worlds. Ethan stood in the center of the throne room, his small bandaged wound still visible on his arm. The golden light from the alien Queen's throne cast a warm glow over everything, highlighting the shimmering scales of the Zypherans around him. For a moment, the room was silent. The guards, once tense and ready to act, now lowered their weapons completely. They seemed unsure, as if they were witnessing something beyond their understanding. The Queen's gaze remained fixed on him. Her eyes, bright and intelligent, seemed to search for the source of the human strength. "Tell me," she said finally, her voice calm but commanding, "why do you endure what would break others?" Ethan bowed slightly, keeping his posture relaxed. "It is not that we are stronger than others, Your Majesty. Humans feel pain like any creature, but we do not give up. We care for one another and we face challenges together. Strength comes not just from the body, but from the heart and mind." The Queen's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She gestured to a platform near the throne. "Show me. Demonstrate this endurance of yours." Ethan glanced at Mira and Jalen. Mira nodded encouragingly. Jalen adjusted his recorder, ready to capture every moment. Then Ethan took a slow breath and stepped forward. "Endurance," he began, "is not only about surviving injury. It is about learning, adapting, and caring, even in difficult situations." He motioned for Mira to bring a small device from their pack, a simple human medical kit. The Zyphorans leaned in curiously, their eyes flickering with the soft light of their scales. Ethan cleaned his wound carefully, explaining each step as he worked. "We take care of our injuries to prevent harm from spreading. We also rest and eat well. Healing is a process that requires patience and care." He applied a clean dressing, gently pressing it into place. "Even a small wound can be meaningful if it teaches us to act carefully and respectfully." The Queen's expression softened. She gestured to one of the guards, and the guard stepped forward, holding a small, glowing object. Ethan recognized it as a type of Zypheran medicinal crystal. He examined it carefully, then smiled. "This is very much like what we use on Earth. Different species, similar care." "That is important, learning from others." The Queen leaned forward. "Your people do not fear pain?" Ethan shook his head. "We feel it, yes. But fear does not control us. We use it to grow stronger, to understand our limits, and to help those around us. We trust in one another and in ourselves." The Queen's eyes shimmered. She looked at the guards, then back at Ethan. "And this is why they lowered their weapons?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, humans can show strength without aggression. We do not need to threaten to earn respect. Our courage is shown in how we act, not how we fight." A murmur passed through the guards. One of the taller ones stepped forward, lowering his eyes. "It is strange," he said softly, "to see courage in this way. We thought injury demanded fear, but this human shows calmness, control, strength." Ethan smiled faintly. "That is the human way. Courage and patience often look quiet, but they are powerful." The Queen nodded slowly. She raised her hand, and a soft light glowed from her fingertips, bathing Ethan's bandaged arm. It was not painful. It was warm and gentle. "Let me test this," she said softly. Not as a challenge, but as curiosity. "Will you allow me?" Ethan held out his arm without hesitation. "Of course, Your Majesty." The Queen's light traced the wound carefully. The scar seemed to shimmer, and Ethan felt a strange warmth spreading through him.
He did not pull away.
He did not flinch. He stayed calm, demonstrating what humans could endure when they faced the unknown with trust rather than fear. The guards shifted uneasily, whispering among themselves. The Queen turned her eyes to them. "Watch carefully," she said. "This is the human spirit. Observe it and learn." Ethan smiled faintly. "Trust is as important as strength," he said quietly. "You cannot endure alone. You need others and you need belief in yourself." The Queen stepped back, her eyes reflecting both curiosity and admiration. "Your resilience is not only in your flesh," she said softly. "It is in your mind, your heart, and your actions." Mira spoke quietly from beside him. "I never imagined they would understand this so quickly. They thought humans were fragile, but maybe we are stronger than they believed." Ethan nodded. "Strength is often underestimated. It comes from being willing to face pain, uncertainty, and challenge with courage and care." The Queen's eyes softened further. "You teach not with words, but with example. This is rare among creatures." She gestured to the guards. "See how they look now. No longer ready for battle. They recognize strength without violence. That is remarkable." One of the guards stepped forward, speaking carefully. "It is unlike anything I have known. Your calmness in injury, your willingness to demonstrate and explain, your patience. It is inspiring. We lower our spears not out of fear, but out of respect." Ethan bowed slightly. "Respect is earned through understanding, not threats. Humans believe in learning from each other and in caring for one another. That is our greatest strength." The Queen nodded again. "Perhaps humans are the most interesting creatures I have encountered. Your flesh may be fragile, but your spirit is unbreakable." Ethan felt a quiet pride. It was not pride in himself alone, but in all of humanity. Their resilience, patience, and courage had made an impression on an alien species, one that had never seen such qualities expressed so clearly. The Queen leaned forward slightly. "Show me more," she said softly. "Teach me about human life, about how you endure challenges and how you care for one another." Ethan glanced at Mira and Jalen. Mira smiled faintly, and Jalen adjusted his recorder. "We can show you," Ethan said. "Humans endure through teamwork, through trust, and through simple acts of care. Let me start by showing you how we work together." He led the team to a quiet corner of the throne room. Using simple objects from their pack, ropes, small tools, and crystals, he demonstrated a basic exercise in cooperation. Zypherans watched, curious and attentive. They mimicked the movements, at first awkwardly, then with more confidence. "Humans do not endure alone," Ethan explained. "We face challenges together. Strength is in the group, in caring for one another and in not giving up when things are difficult." The Queen observed silently, her eyes shining. Even the guards leaned forward, watching closely. Ethan continued, showing small examples of how humans solve problems, communicate effectively, and support each other in times of need. After a while, the Queen spoke. "You have shown me endurance, patience, and care. You have taught not with words alone, but with actions. This is rare. Humans are remarkable." Ethan bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty. But it is not just humans. Any species can show these qualities. You have only to recognize them and learn from each other." The Queen nodded slowly, her gaze thoughtful. "Perhaps this is the beginning of understanding between our species. If humans can endure, teach, and inspire, then perhaps we have much to learn from you." Ethan smiled faintly, a quiet pride filling him. "That is all we hope for, Your Majesty. To learn and share, to endure and grow together." The guards, once tense and wary, now seemed relaxed. Their respect for humans had deepened, not because of weapons or strength, but because of patience, courage, and the ability to face challenges without fear. Ethan's small wound, once a source of concern, had become a symbol, a lesson in resilience, endurance, and quiet strength. As the Queen rose slightly from her throne, she gestured for Ethan to continue teaching. "There is much I wish to learn," she said softly. "And you, human, will show me the ways of your people." This is only the beginning. Ethan's heart lifted. He had not expected this, but it felt right. Humans were not just explorers, they were teachers, examples of resilience and courage. And here, on a distant alien world, he would continue to show what humans could endure, and how their spirit could inspire even the most powerful and alien of beings. And so, with calm determination, Ethan began the next lesson. guiding the Queen and her guards through exercises in teamwork, patience, and care. Every movement, every small act, became a demonstration of human endurance. For the first time, he realized that strength was not measured in speed or power, but in calm courage, empathy, and the ability to face challenges with a steady heart. The Queen watched closely, the guards followed, and Ethan's small wound pulsed faintly, a reminder of the journey that had brought him here, and the new path that lay ahead. Humans were extraordinary, not because of their weapons or size, but because of their courage, their care, and their willingness to endure. And the Xiphorans were about to learn that lesson in ways they would never forget. The throne room had grown quiet after the lesson in human endurance, but the air still shimmered with curiosity. The Queen watched Ethan closely, her silver scales glinting in the soft light. The guards, once tense and wary, now seemed eager to observe, to learn, and perhaps to understand. Ethan adjusted the strap of his pack. "Your Majesty," he said politely, "there is more to humans than endurance. We live, learn, and grow together in many ways. May I show you?" The Queen inclined her head. "Show me everything you deem important. I wish to understand your ways, human." Ethan smiled faintly and gestured to Mira and Jalen. "Then let's begin." They moved toward a quiet corner of the palace, where the light from the walls softened into a warm glow. Ethan unpacked several small objects: a globe, a simple board game, and a set of musical instruments, basic, human-made items meant to demonstrate creativity, teamwork, and culture. Humans learn through cooperation, Ethan explained, placing the board game on the floor. We face challenges and we work together to solve them. Every decision affects the group and every action has a consequence. The Queen leaned forward slightly curious. "Show me how this works." Ethan began by explaining the rules simply, using gestures and clear speech. The guards watched carefully, mimicking his movements when prompted. At first they were clumsy, unsure how to respond. But soon their movements became more coordinated, and small smiles appeared on their faces as they realized the game was not a test of strength, but of thought, strategy, and cooperation. "This is intriguing," the Queen said softly. "Humans find strength not only in the body, but in the mind and in working together. Even in play, you demonstrate endurance," Ethan nodded. "Exactly. It is not only in battle or survival that we endure. It is in everyday life, in learning, helping, and sharing." Next, Ethan moved to the small musical instruments. They were simple: a wooden flute, a set of small drums, and a lyre-like stringed instrument. He showed how humans created music not just for entertainment, but as a way to communicate emotions, bond with one another, and share experiences. Mira began to play a gentle rhythm on the drums while Ethan played a soft tune on the lyre. The Queen's eyes widened slightly as the sounds filled the room. The music was simple, yet rich with feeling, and it seemed to resonate even with the alien listeners. The guards, who had never seen humans play music before, tilted their heads in surprise. "This is communication without words," the Queen said, her voice soft. "You convey thought and feeling in sound alone. Humans are versatile," Ethan smiled. "Music teaches cooperation too. Everyone listens, responds, and adapts. It strengthens our bond even without speaking. It is another form of endurance, patience, attention, and harmony." The Queen nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Humans endure not only through struggle but through learning and connection. This is valuable." Encouraged, Ethan moved to the final demonstration: storytelling. He took a small tablet from his pack, showing images of humans facing challenges, solving problems, and helping one another. "Humans tell stories to teach, to inspire, and to remember," Ethan explained. "Even our smallest stories show courage, endurance, and the importance of helping each other." He began to describe a simple story, using gestures and clear speech. It was about a human village facing a sudden storm, working together to protect their homes and each other. As Ethan spoke, the Queen leaned closer, fascinated. The guards too listened intently, their previous tension replaced with awe and attention. "The humans in your stories," the Queen said softly, "they endure through care and cooperation, not only through strength." "This is rare among creatures," Ethan nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. Humans face challenges together. We share knowledge, skills, and support. That is why we endure. Our strength is in our hearts and minds, not just our bodies." The Queen's eyes glimmered with curiosity. She gestured to the guards. "Observe carefully. There is much to learn here. This is not weakness nor simplicity. It is depth, the guards murmured among themselves. One of the taller ones stepped forward and spoke quietly. It is inspiring. Humans do not need weapons to show strength. They teach through patience, understanding, and care. We have much to learn from this. Ethan smiled faintly. Strength can be gentle, Your Majesty. Courage does not always roar. It sometimes whispers, guides, and endures quietly. That is why humans survive and thrive even in harsh circumstances. The Queen nodded. I wish to learn more. Show me other aspects of your culture. Ethan gestured to the glowing palace walls. Your Majesty, humans value curiosity. We explore, ask questions, and share discoveries. That is another form of endurance, mental endurance. We never stop learning and we adapt to challenges, even unfamiliar worlds. He told the Queen about human science, exploration, and the drive to understand the universe. He spoke simply, clearly, and passionately. Mira added examples of human biology and medicine, while Jalen explained how humans communicate across vast distances. The Queen's eyes shone with interest. Your species does not rely only on physical strength. You rely on understanding, creativity, and cooperation. These are qualities I respect greatly. Ethan bowed slightly. Respect is mutual, Your Majesty. We also wish to learn from Zephyrins to understand your ways, your culture, and your skills. That is why we are here, to share knowledge and build trust. The Queen smiled faintly. Then the exchange begins. Humans teach endurance, cooperation, and care. Zephyrins teach wisdom, observation, and connection with this world. There is much to learn on both sides. Over the next hours, the cultural exchange deepened. Ethan guided Zephyrins in small human games that emphasized teamwork. Mira demonstrated basic biology lessons, showing how humans understood healing and the importance of caring for each other. Jalen shared simple communication exercises, teaching the Zephyrins how humans solved problems collectively. The Queen watched carefully, occasionally joining in with gestures and questions. She asked about humans' healing practices, their problem-solving methods, and how they maintained bonds despite challenges. Ethan answered each question with calm clarity, demonstrating patience and resilience in every gesture. By the end of the day, the guards were no longer tense. They had learned that humans could teach without threat, lead without dominance, and inspire without force. Ethan's small wound, once a source of concern, had become a symbol, a reminder of human endurance, patience, and courage. The Queen's voice echoed softly across the throne room. Humans endure. They teach. They inspire. Their courage is subtle but powerful. Their care is deliberate and their patience remarkable. They are a species worth understanding and valuing. Ethan felt a quiet pride, not in himself but in humanity as a whole. Humans had arrived on Zephora not as conquerors but as teachers and examples of resilience, cooperation, and courage. Their strength was not in weapons or force but in calm determination, empathy, and understanding. The Queen stood slowly, her eyes on Ethan. There is more to learn, human, she said. Your ways are unusual yet valuable. We will continue this exchange and perhaps the Zephorans will grow stronger in ways they never imagined. Ethan bowed. It would be an honor, Your Majesty. Humans believe in learning from others and sharing what we know. That is how we endure. The Queen's gaze softened and she gestured for the team to continue their lessons in the palace gardens, a place of calm light and flowing colors. Show me more, she said softly. Teach me patience, endurance, and care. Let this be the beginning of understanding between our species. And so, as the sun shimmered through the palace walls, Ethan, Mira, and Jalen led Zephyrins in games, lessons, and demonstrations of human life. They shared the values that had allowed humanity to survive and thrive across countless challenges. Courage, patience, empathy, and the will to endure. For the first time, Ethan realized that strength was not measured by weapons or size, but by the heart, the mind, and the courage to face the unknown with calm and care. Zephyrins watched, learned, and slowly began to understand what humans could endure, and how valuable that endurance truly was. As the day came to a close, Ethan looked around at the palace gardens. The Queen stood nearby, observing quietly, her scales glowing softly in the twilight. The guards moved with newfound respect, and the once curious attendants now participated eagerly in the lessons. Ethan smiled faintly. This was only the beginning. Humans had arrived as outsiders, but they were becoming teachers, friends, and examples of endurance. And in the process, they were showing that courage and patience could bridge worlds, even the vast distance between humans and Zifforans. The palace glowed warmly around them, a living symbol of curiosity, learning, and understanding. And for the first time, Ethan felt the quiet joy of knowing that humanity's greatest strength, its courage, care, and endurance, was being recognized in the stars. The palace was alive with a soft glow as dawn broke over Ziphora. Light streamed through the crystalline walls, scattering in colors that danced across the floors and ceilings. The Queen's throne room, once tense with suspicion, now hummed with quiet energy. Ethan stood near the center, his arm fully healed, the small scar a subtle reminder of the journey that had brought him here. The Queen sat on her throne, her silver scales reflecting the morning light. Her gaze rested on Ethan, thoughtful and calm. Around her, the guards moved with ease, no longer tense or fearful. Even the attendants, who had watched Ethan's every action with curiosity, now carried themselves with a quiet respect. "Human," the Queen began, her voice melodic. "Your species has endured, taught and inspired. You have shown patience, courage, and care. You do not rely on weapons or strength alone, yet your presence commands respect. This is remarkable." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans endure because we care, for ourselves, for others, and for the challenges we face. We do not seek power over others, but understanding and cooperation." The Queen nodded slowly, her eyes glimmering. "And that is why your people will be welcomed here. Today, I formally recognize humans as valued guests of Ziphora. Guards, attendants, and citizens alike treat them with the respect they deserve." The guards standing nearby lowered their weapons fully and bowed deeply. One stepped forward, his three eyes shining with admiration. "It is an honor," he said softly. "We see now that humans are strong, not through force, but through courage and care." Ethan's team exchanged glances, feeling a wave of pride. Not pride in themselves alone, but in humanity as a whole. The recognition from the Queen and her people was not about conquest or dominance. It was about respect earned through calm courage, patience, and enduring strength. The Queen rose slowly from her throne and descended the steps with a grace that made Ethan pause. She stopped in front of him, her eyes studying him carefully. "Your small injury," she said softly, gesturing to his scar, "was the first sign of your resilience. It was a lesson in endurance, and it changed the way my people see strength." Ethan touched the scar lightly. "It reminds me that challenges, no matter how small, can be meaningful. It is not the size of the wound, but how we face it that matters." The Queen inclined her head thoughtfully. "Humans do not falter when faced with pain or uncertainty. You endure through understanding and care. This is a lesson that Zifforans will remember." A murmur ran through the throne room. The attendants, guards, and a few curious citizens who had been allowed to observe stepped forward, bowing or inclining their heads. Ethan realized that every creature in the room, regardless of rank or status, now regarded humans with a new kind of respect, one that went beyond fear or caution. The Queen gestured for Ethan and his team to follow her. They walked together through the palace, moving toward the gardens that glowed softly under the alien sunlight. Ethan noticed how the plants seemed to lean toward them, as if sensing the calm energy in their steps. The Queen paused by a flowing fountain, its water shimmering in rainbow hues. "You have taught us much," she said, turning to face Ethan. "Not only of your body, but of your mind and heart. Humans endure, but you also inspire. You show that patience, cooperation, and care are as powerful as any weapon." Ethan bowed. "That is how humans thrive, Your Majesty. Strength is measured not in aggression, but in courage, empathy, and persistence." The Queen nodded slowly. "Then let this day be remembered. Humans are not only visitors, they are teachers. Your presence here will influence Zifforans for generations. Guards, share what you have learned. Citizens, watch and remember. All must understand that strength comes in many forms." The guards nodded, their expressions solemn. One stepped forward, speaking clearly. "We have learned that courage is not always loud and strength is not always visible. Humans show endurance through calmness, care, and persistence. We honor this lesson." Ethan felt a warm pride. Not pride in himself, but in humanity. His small wound, once a cause of concern, had become a symbol of what humans represented. Resilience, courage, and compassion. The Queen gestured to the gardens. "Show me more of your ways, human. Teach us how you live, how you connect, and how you face the unknown." Ethan smiled faintly. "We would be honored, Your Majesty." Over the next hours, Ethan, Mira, and Jalen led Zypherans through demonstrations of human life. They played simple games that emphasized teamwork, showing how cooperation could solve problems more efficiently than force. Mira demonstrated healing techniques, teaching the principles of care and patience that humans use to recover from injury or illness. Jalen explained communication strategies, showing how humans solved problems collectively, even across distances. The Queen observed carefully, occasionally joining in. She asked questions about humans' lives, about their habits, and about how they maintained bonds despite challenges. Ethan answered each question clearly, patiently, and with humility. As the lessons progressed, the Queen turned to the guards. Observe. Humans endure not through dominance or fear, but through learning, cooperation, and empathy. This is a lesson that all Zypherans must remember. The guards nodded, clearly impressed. Their previous tension had melted into respect. They moved with ease and attentiveness, participating in the exercises and asking questions. Even the attendants, once hesitant and wary, joined in eagerly. Ethan led a simple exercise in cooperation. Using small floating crystals, the team demonstrated how humans solve problems together. The guards mimicked their movements carefully, learning to coordinate without command. The Queen smiled faintly, watching the subtle lessons of patience and understanding unfold. "This is remarkable," she said softly. "Humans teach through example, not force. They inspire through patience and care. This is rare and valuable," Ethan bowed. "That is how humans endure, Your Majesty. By trusting one another, caring for each other, and facing challenges with courage and persistence." The Queen's eyes softened. "Then let this day mark the beginning of understanding. Humans are no longer strangers. They are respected guests, teachers, and friends." Ethan's heart lifted. He had expected curiosity, perhaps caution, but not this level of recognition. Humans had arrived as outsiders, yet they were leaving an imprint on an alien world, not through aggression, but through the quiet strength of patience, courage, and care. The Queen gestured to the scar on his arm. This small wound was the first lesson. It showed that humans endure and inspire. It reminded us that strength is not always visible, and that courage often comes quietly. Ethan touched the scar lightly. "It reminds me too," he said softly. "Even small challenges can teach big lessons. Endurance is not just about the body, but about the heart and mind." The Queen nodded slowly. "Then humans and Zypherans will share knowledge, courage, and understanding. We will learn from each other, and our bond will endure." Ethan glanced at Mira and Jalen, feeling a quiet pride. Humans had achieved something extraordinary, not by conquest or force, but by demonstrating what made them special: resilience, patience, and the ability to face challenges with courage and care. As the sun rose higher over Zephora, the palace garden shimmered in light. Ethan led the Queen and the guards through the final demonstration of the day, a cooperative exercise using simple tools to achieve a shared goal. Every movement, every small success was a lesson in teamwork, patience, and understanding. The Queen observed quietly, her expression thoughtful. Humans endure. They inspire. They teach without words, and their courage is subtle but strong. This is a gift not only to us, but to the universe. Ethan smiled faintly. That is how humans thrive. By learning, sharing, and enduring together, we face any challenge. By the time the day ended, the palace was filled with a quiet, calm respect. Humans had arrived as guests, but they had become teachers. Zypherans had learned that strength could be gentle, courage could be quiet, and endurance could inspire. The Queen returned to her throne, her eyes still on Ethan. "Human," she said softly, "your people have shown us lessons that will last generations. Your wound, once small, has taught us about endurance. Your actions, patience, and care have taught us about courage. You and your species are now respected and valued among us." Ethan bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans endure not for glory or recognition, but to help one another and to grow together. It is our honor to share what we can." The Queen's expression softened further. "Then let it be known. Humans are honored guests, respected teachers, and allies. Guards, attendants, and citizens alike remember this day. Let human courage and patience guide us in understanding, learning, and cooperation." Ethan looked around the room, at the glowing walls, the calm guards, and the observing attendants. His heart swelled with quiet pride, not for himself but for humanity. They had arrived as strangers, but they had left an impression that would endure. And for the first time, Ethan understood fully what humans could achieve, not through force but through courage, patience, and care. The small wound on his arm, now barely visible, had become a symbol, a reminder of what humans represented: endurance, understanding, and the quiet strength to inspire across worlds. The Queen's voice echoed one last time across the throne room. Humans endure. Humans inspire. Humans teach. Let this day be